Hello everybody, it is Mike Levin, and the time has come, the walrus said, to explore nbdev new and alternatively nbdev template, which is a GitHub from a repo from GitHub. So this first one is a command. So these are two ways to start out on an nbdev project. So you know that I am very fond of working in Jupyter Notebooks. In this case, it's Jupyter Lab. And I will very commonly be here in my experiments directory, just making notebook after notebook while I figure things out. So this one here, I moved off into a different location called SEO Kata. You can see it started out in my experiments, but then it moved into its own repo called SEO Kata. But we're going to do from scratch. There's a lot of starting points here which cause a bit of confusion. So I'll use one that will insert high up in here so you'll see it appear. Let's call it, let's see, it's a template, it's testing, it's new, it's a new nbdev. So here's nbdev, and I can throw one down there that is, well, that wouldn't alphabetize to the top. Let's call it a repo, and it'll just put it right at the top. So as usual, I use the command line to do this most often. So mkdir new repo, a repo. Okay, so we just made a new directory there. You'll see a repo just magically pop up there, and there's nothing in it right now. These here are notebooks from previous repos that I had loaded. So I guess what I'll do is I'll say new Python notebook just to have a notebook in there, and you can see an untitled get created in a repo. If I go over here and I do an ls, well, if I cd into a repo and I do an ls there, you'll see that untitled got created. And if I ls-la to show everything, including invisibles, you'll see that Ipython, which is the REPL engine behind Jupyter, has created its checkpoints directory, which is basically your undos and such. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into an nbdev repo and see what other files appear in here, just so that we understand what's going on. Now, concerning my environment, you'll notice these forward slashes, Ubuntu at Lunderwand. This all tells you that I am on a Linux-like environment. I am not in a typical Windows command line shell, which would look more like this. Here's the command prompts that has the C:\\. And then there's also PowerShell, which similarly has those C:\\. These are the command lines you'll most frequently encounter on a Windows system, but with enough work, and soon in the future it'll just be the default, I'm sure, you can have a actual Linux command line in Windows, and so that's what this is. And in such a location, you can use, I had at one time pip installed nbdev. This is how I have the tools on my system you're about to see me use. I'm not going to redo them. Well, why not? Pip install nbdev, see what it says. All requirements satisfied. So having that on my machine, I can do things like nbdev tab and hit tab a few times and it'll show you everything. So if you wanted to eliminate one of those tabbings, you can type nbdev underscore, and it only takes 2 taps to get your suggested completions. And we're going to be trying to use nbdev new, but I'll tell you right off the bat, it's not going to work the first try. For a variety of reasons. This location, a repo, is not really a repo yet. Git init. Now it's a repo. Git add untitled. Git commit. Added notebook. So now if I ls-la to see the invisible locations, there's one more invisible location that there wasn't before. It's the .git directory. That's where Git keeps its undos. So Ipython or Jupyter's undos go in here. Git's undos, and I'm dramatically simplifying it, but call it that for now, go into the .git directory. So now it's a repo. Can we do nbdev new? No, because it cannot reach a remote origin URL. It needs to see where its remote location is, usually on GitHub. So one more thing, we have a repo, and if you go over to GitHub and you make a repository, and I'll keep this one public for now just because it will complain less in a minute, a repo, and you create that repository, you make your current branch into main, git branch m main. So you watch, git branch m main. We make it our main branch, and then we give it an endpoint, git remote add origin, and this address. We do one push that tells it to specifically do the origin main. And now it's on GitHub. If we did a refresh here, you'll see it's actually there. If you went to my profile, you would see that one of my recently pushed up changes is to a repo. You can see me pushing up what's a metaphor, which was the website I launched earlier today, really soft launched. So the repo's there. So now clear ls, that's our before, ls-la to show all invisible files, that's our before. Now we can nbdev new, and it will work because it can actually find the remote endpoint on GitHub, and it even installed GitHub hooks. This is continuous integration type of stuff. So we ls for the visible files, right? Look how different that is from just the untitled that was there before. Now, in addition to untitled, which is still right there, we've got contributing markdown, manifest.in. We've got a docs directory. We've got a settings.ini file. We've got a license file. We've got a readme markdown. We've got a Docker compose YML. We've got a new notebook. That's an index.ipynb. That's actually a notebook. And then we've got a setup py. And I do know from reading about this that settings.ini is where you make all your changes in. You'll never make your changes in setup.py. That's auto-generated. So let's take a look in that. And it should tell us this is auto-configured. Auto-generated, please don't touch. I don't see that warning, but it's in there. We'll take a look into settings.ini. This is where you're actually supposed to make all your changes. It picked up my stuff from my Microsoft thing. I like using my Google one more. Yeah, I'm old school. I had a Hotmail. I still have a Hotmail account. Before I clear it, let's do an ls-la to see the invisibles, right? Look how many more invisibles are in there. There's devcontainer.json, git attributes, git config, GitHub, a git ignore file. Those are all new. So, in short, there are a heck of a lot of files that nbdev new puts into place. So you must have the repo in GitHub for nbdev new to work. Once you run nbdev new, a lot of files, I can't capitalize it all, there's stuff that does way more, several files are put in the repo, including invisible ones. Starting with dot. Is that how you how you would do it? I guess starting with dot, right? That's how you would say it. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the Ipython notebooks that are put in there. Yeah, there should be another. There's my untitled. There's the index.ipynb. But what it's not giving you is the initial one that guides you directly, and I'll show you that. I'll actually load that index one, and I'm expecting it to be README documentation oriented as opposed to package creation oriented. See? Project name here, this will become your README. This is what goes at the bottom of repos in GitHub. So I still have GitHub here. Say I was going into Pipulate. As you scroll down on a repo, all this documentation on your main repo page actually comes out of your repo itself. It's your readme.markdown, your index.markdown, whatever. In this case, they're using index.markdown, which I believe gets transformed from their index.ipynb file. So when I'm over here in Jupyter and I'm looking at this, this is going to become the index.ipynb file, or the index.markdown file that the repo uses on the main page. Okay, so anyway, excuse me. We want to compare this now. We just took a look at nbdev new. There's also nbdev template, which is a different way of getting a blank template, and it has slightly different things in it. So I figured we'd try that as well too. So all I do is cd ... These are all my repos. I don't really need to see those. But if we go to GitHub again, and we search on nbdev template, okay, this is looking in my own repo, my own repos for that. So we're just going to do a general Google search for nbdev template. And it's not too hard to find. There's one on GitHub. That's it, the one on GitHub. And now a new feature of repos is using them as a template. So I can pull it into my own repo system. So whereas I had a repo, I'll call this B repo. B repo, brepo, B repo. Because I'll be deleting these. But now I have a repo and B repo. B repo was made from cloning a template. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I could inspect what's in here from here. And you can already see this 00_core.ipynb is the one I'm interested in. You can see I've encountered that on projects before. I've got two of those loaded here. I've got one from the OAuth project, and I've got one from the SEO ML project. These are each places where I experimented with different things. OAuth was very satisfying. I used real object-oriented notation for the first time and replaced my Google OAuth authentication workflow in most of my projects now with this nice little thing, which is actually released in PyPy. You can actually go and, OAuth. It's like OAuth, but less awful. And you can go there and you can look at my repo in PyPy, pip install it, and then you can get your Google credentials for using various Google services. So there's that. And then there's ML SEO, which I really used to develop these database concepts that I am using everywhere, where there's an initial collection of the data into SQLite, the raw data code. I talked about that in a few recent videos, here in particular. You have a local database, your keys in your local database are both the keys for the database and the arguments, the parameters that are the arguments that are required for the parameters of your API. And so when you take your keys of a record, which might be empty, plug it into an API, you get data back, and then you can put that into your data portion of the database that the key unlocks. It's really a wonderful way to go. So I believe I have that out as public, and this can all be looked at. And I've been collecting my Google Search Console data so that, the however many months or whatever of archival data that it gives you, it eats its tail. It eventually disappears. So I have this going ahead and oh, it's going to require new authentication. Okay, fine. This is me. And oh, forbidden. What am I getting? I probably wanted a different user, so that creates let's see, it's a little bit of a tangent. SEOML, that creates this credentials.pickle file. Let's see, ML SEO, SEOML. I got all these folders. SEOML, credentials.pickle. We delete that. I do my authentication again. This time I'm going to be Mike Levin SEO. I believe I have these actually set up for that. Google hasn't verified, so this is the step you have to do to allow yourself to use OAuth apps that haven't verified with Google yet. No big deal. So these are the sites that I have on Google Search Console for that particular user. Oh, and here it is now. Look, so when it slows down here and it has the exclamations after it, it's really hitting the API. So for some 487 days back, I've had that data cached, and it was only up here to 22 days ago that it started polling for real against the API. So I went on a little bit of a tangent there. My current best SEO katas are spread between this file here that has collected my best recent techniques, this file here that has sort of pioneered a lot of the database SQLite stuff that has become fundamental to my work. And this one here, which is my OAuth project. So I'm sort of rounding it all up into one place, and that's what a lot of this is really all about at this point. And to that end, what we're doing is, oh yeah, we're going to clone git, the new nbdev location we're going to compare the two. So it's git user at github.com /miklevin, M-I-K-L-E-V-I-N /brepo. Oh, it's not just clone, it's git clone. I'm such a git. You gotta be a git to clone. And now we can cd into bclone. Oh, brepo. cd brepo, ls, clear ls. I'll bring up another terminal here. cd into a repo, ls, or clear ls. So now you can see the difference between the two locations. It looks identical. That's only because in a repo I put untitled there beforehand, and in b repo they have this core IPYNB. Well, so let's go look at that. Let me go back up to my GitHub repos. There's a repo and there's b repo. Now I think I'll get out of these two other core.ipynbs because you've seen those and that'll just be confusing. I'll get out of this index one of that because that'll be confusing. We don't need a untitled that's not doing anything sitting around. And I'll even close out of SEO Kata because we're going to get back to that. This is what it looks like when you get down to one tab. You can't get rid of that last tab. It's the launcher. It's your way of getting a notebook, a console, terminal, whatever. If this weren't live, I'd stop and get a drink. I probably still will anyway, but we are now going to look inside that B repo location and look at its core IPYNB. Here are the magic words, and this is how you get packages exported, okay? And in fact, it's not all the magic words. There was one of those other core files that we should get stuff out of, but this is magic words for nbdev, as is this. It has more to do with the creation of the documentation, though. This has to do with the name of the package that's going to be exported. It's going to be exported called core in the export location. But let me go back into one that has a its own core file, and that would be SEO Kata. I've been talking about that one a lot lately, and oh yeah, I named that one SEO Kata there, so that's not a great place to grab the example. We'll look inside OAuth, and here that one is. And there's a lot loaded in memory, by the way. I would say good practice is to get all this stuff out of memory. So you can just go ahead and shut down all your kernels. It doesn't matter because the first time you try and run these, they'll be immediately back in memory. Probably even if you do a comment like that. Maybe not. Let's try this one. Well, we'll see it appear here eventually. Okay, but what I'm looking for is the magic words. Here is the magic word. The magic word is export. Export in a comment at the top of a block says what code is going to be exported into that default export file that's defined there. So we look at our first core, and that is defined. We have that same hide, but we don't have a comment export. comment, export. Time to turn the lights on my keyboard. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. We're not even getting the ones. It's probably because I quit out of all the kernels there. Let me explicitly, I don't know, let me try refreshing it. Reload. Maybe I made a mistake quitting all the kernels. There's our asterisk that we're looking for, and there's both those cores loaded into memory. There's this one, and we're going to put export. That disappeared probably because the kernel wasn't loaded. There was nothing to actually record it. And so we're going to do a little bit of a before and after. You'll recall I was comparing these two locations, the one where I created the first notebook in there originally and then used nbdev. This location was the nbdev new folder where I used the local command to initialize an nbdev project. This one I cloned from the remote GitHub repo. I cloned it into my own repo. I said use this, and it used it as a template. And then I cloned it down from my own set of repos. And you'll notice what isn't here is any sort of subdirectory. In fact, I'll do ls-la. There's no sort of subdirectory. Here's our directory locations, these two default ones, which you can basically ignore. This one here, which is for Git, and then another for GitHub, another for Ipython, and then another here for docs. What there is not is one for a package, you see. So I'm going to make a package that basically says hello world, right? So when you import this package, it's going to print hello world. I am a package. Save it, okay? And now I'm going to do those things that you do in a nbdev repo to sprinkle the magic fairy dust. And again, there will be a before and after. This is the before. There's only those few directories. nbdev build lib. Oh, stuff it didn't like. Stuff has to be set in the setup.ini first. And I should probably do nbdev clean notebook first. So key error copyright, right? Okay. So there's stuff it's really going to insist we do in the setup.ini first. So copyright, that's an interesting one for them to do. Vim setup not py vim settings.ini. Copyright is edited out. We'll edit that back in. Copyright like Levit 2021. See if that's enough now. But I'm also going to, before doing nbdev, the command I was about to do, nbdev build lib, I'm going to first do nbdev clean nbs, which pulls out the metadata from your notebook so your git commits are cleaner. It still isn't going to make any changes in the directories in there. But the moment we nbdev build lib now, okay, one more thing, description, vim settings, testing nbdev template, nbdev build lib. There we go. Clear. ls. See this one that says lib name? I probably did not fill something out in settings.ini. We have a lib name to set, otherwise it gets filled in with this gobbledygook. I believe we can cd into there. I'm surprised that's a valid directory name. But here are the exports, including core.py. Now, of course, this is a terribly ugly place for that to go, so we cd ... rm recursive forced lib name. That directory is gone. Okay, and now we're going to do nb build lib again. However, we're going to do it after we check for a library name. Library name, this is a good one to set. Repo. nbdev build lib. Oh, that's an A repo. And there we go. We're going to have a directory B repo. And having a subdirectory named the same exact thing as your GitHub repo, so this is the Git and the GitHub repo name, and then this is the package name created inside of that by the nbdev system. It's following the same convention as PyPy, the Python packaging index. This is really important now. So you might say, when you import brepo, how in the heck does it know what to do? So we're going to cd into that next level of brepo. We're going to ls there, and I'm going to show you the files it creates. It creates an index.py, a dunder init. Creates a place for caching. I'm not sure what this is, but I'll look into. And then it creates the main package name itself. So you'll see if we vim core, this is automatically generated. It doesn't want you to edit it, but there's the call to the hello world. But when you import this package, you're not going to be importing a word called core.py. We're going to want to import brepo. And it really doesn't make sense to have a core.py. No one refers to it in that language. So how does that happen? So when you import this repo, first thing it's going to do is run whatever's in dunder init. So let's take a look there. Vim dunder init. Oh, it's just your version. I guess we are going to actually have to import core. I was thinking I was going to find something else there. Let's look at nbdev.py. Oh, there's some interesting stuff. This tells a lot of what's necessary for like auto completion, IntelliSense type stuff, built-in documentation systems. So we're going to try and get that hello world in a new. So you'll see here, we'll go back to the directory view. I am in brepo, but now that I've exported that library, I should be able to create a brand new Python thing in here, a new Python notebook, a new Ipython notebook. And let's test relative to where I am. I should be able to import brepo because it's a subdirectory of my location. It did not print hello world on immediate import. That's interesting. So one of the tricks to continuously re-import I've been using in my SEO kata location. So let's find that again for a moment. Some needs that you don't really have to do a lot in normal Python execution context, in other words, not Jupyter, don't require re-importing libraries because you don't have to restart your kernel. So one alternative I really could do here is I could restart the kernel and import that again. And each time I want to test whether the change I made in the package is good, I would restart the kernel there. However, that is tedious and unnecessary when we can go into our SEO kata, find the magic that's used for reloading. So the first one here is load external auto reload. We put that way up here. And now above the library that you plan on auto reloading, or the libraries you plan on auto reloading, you put this next keyword, auto reload, to. So now any change I make to B repo that I import here, I'll see that take place. Now, I should be able to take a look inside of B repo, find out where my hello world is. I'm not seeing it there. Let's see if it actually exported. Well, we did see it exported it. We were seeing it right there. Vim core.py. Importing it does not run that package. That's very interesting. Let's try putting something inside of there that we can run, just to make sure that this is a successful demonstration. There's too much showing here. Let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of this one. We only really need the core that we're working with and the untitled that's importing that package. Now it might be importing brepo really doesn't have anything. That was just the init.py. Let's try importing brepo.core. Oh, hello world. I am a package there. That's exactly it. So if I change that terminology here, I'm a package, print another line. Now you're in file change. That's fine. You can overwrite it. I'll explain why the file changed underneath of you in a moment. But you can save that. Now, even if you re-import the package and try and run it, it's not going to have the oh, and it's only going to show that the first time it runs. That's really interesting. See, side effects of packages only happen on the first time they get imported, right? So if I try and run that again, even with reloading the library, it's not going to work because it's the first time it was run. However, if I make a function in there, it will be fine. But even so, restart, the second line isn't there, so you know something is wrong, right? The thing that's wrong is we didn't re-export the package. Now you'll see if I do a git diff, there's going to be a lot of greens and reds, things that are different from each other, a lot of trash being put in, all this stuff in green here. We want to get rid of as much of that meta information from Jupyter as possible. So to do that, we're going to cd back up to the main repo location, clear, and then we're going to nbdev clean nbs. Now we'll do a git diff, and you should see hopefully less of the green. See, there's still a little of that, but clean notebooks gets rid of as much extraneous metadata as possible. So your git inits or your git commits are a bit cleaner. But that doesn't export the package. This does. nbdev build lib. Now we go back here, restart the kernel. There's our another line. So the package has been exported. If we go into that cd brepo location, that nested repo location, or GitHub brepo/brepo, we look in here. There's our core file. We vim our core file, and you can see it's got those two print statements along with your reminder to do not edit this file, right? So those are side effects. They're only going to happen when the package is imported. So let's make something happen whenever you want it to. So to that end, you would actually put a function inside of the code block that has the export. So def foo. It won't take any input. No, we'll take some input. We'll take, file change. It's fine to overwrite. That's because of the clean NBS. We'll take as input spam, and we'll print. I guess we'll use an F string. Spam and eggs. Clean NBS, build lib, go to Untitled that uses it. This auto reload is almost well, it's not worthless anymore because this stuff isn't side effects. We can do brepo.core.foo. We can either see the function as the repr, brepo has no attribute core, import brepo.core. There's your module. Let's look inside of it. Let's look inside of it.core, even though it said it had no module versus core. No module named core. So why is that? Here's our core. Here's our thing that has an export. ls. There's core. Oh, we have to import the my import statement is probably wrong. So let's restart the kernel. Bump. Bump. Well, at least we can see it there. I should be able, I don't see it listed here. repo.core.foo. There's no attribute foo. Did I build a lib? Vim core. Ah, the function isn't in here. For some reason it did not export. cd ... Maybe I built the lib from the wrong directory. Maybe I was cd'd into the wrong directory. Build lib from here. Still no function. Let's see what's going on here. We save this. This is where I put the function. See that def foo is part of what gets exported. So this looks correct. In fact, I should be able to say foo bar eggs. Okay, so it's working. I save it. I clean the notebook. I build the lib. I see the function is in there this time. So whatever I did wrong before is not wrong this time. So now, clear everything. Dun, 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 dun. And there's our foo as a function, but if it's a callable, so if we put our parentheses around it, and it requires input. Foo bar and eggs right there. So now we should be able to do this fairly loosey-goosey. This import here allows a re-import without restarting the kernel. So let's change something. Let's add another function. Def bar. Take input as eggs. And we'll print eggs. Oh, I really messed that one up, right? Didn't I? In my copying and pasting. I'll just copy that whole function over again. And it's an identical function, except it's called bar. And I should put those two commands together. nbdev clean. And we should be able to do a ampersand nbdev build lib. is the magic combo there to constantly do this. I go back to my untitled, and I should be able to auto reload. And now, just the way I had a foo command, I should have a bar command. I do not. Vim core. Oh, it got renamed foo both times. That was just a user stupidity error. I think I was too fast on the draw. Oh no, it says bar. Save. Race conditions, perhaps. Foo and bar. Find my two magic commands. Oh, it's in here. And this only gets confusing now because it's a repo. So I'll get rid of that so it doesn't confuse me. My good command is in there. I can vim core just to take a peek. And there, I see it. It actually worked this time. So I go to Untitled. And now, pretty soon, I should get to the demonstration where you can just do loosey-goosey development stuff. Yeah, so has no attribute core. I was getting that before. Let me restart the kernel entirely. Yeah, all right. So everything is there that I expect to be there, but the little niceties that I'm going for really rapid development, having one notebook as your package and your other notebook importing and using your package side by side. I was hoping I could get a nice workflow where I don't have to restart the kernel a lot, but you're really not going to get away from that. So all this stuff I'm doing with the auto reload, that can just be stripped out because it's not getting you much and it just is extra. So this is the basic stuff here. And in fact, I'll even strip these out because we know those things are there. If you're working on a nbdev package and you sprinkle those magic words in, your exported file is going to be core. These all get exported. And you have your correct name under settings.ini, and everything is just set up so you can now edit your package, use your edited package, but the one nuance is that each time you make an edit here, you got to restart your kernel there. I'm looking for a better solution, but that's the way it is right now. And so that is the basics of nbdev. This is a complete mission accomplished. So, I did nbdev new on a local Git repo to nbdevify it. It went well. It went well, but did not give the, they call it 00_core .ipynb. I think I got that right. So they give a nice numbering system for you to keep for you to keep track of your core components, your core package components. But it didn't give the sample file that contains the export comment. I did nbdev template clone nbdev template, use this repo, use this template. I think it was use this template from GitHub. I still have GitHub loaded. Just hit back on B repo a few times. Create a new repo from nbdev template. And there was a button back here. Use this template. I believe I had it right. Use it. So I did nbdev template. Use this template from GitHub, and I have the exact location here, so that's useful. That went well too. We used it as our starting point for creating a test package. We were able to import the nbdev build lib created package from a Jupyter notebook side by side in the same repo. This bodes well for notebook-based development work. All right. That's about it for this live video. I'm pretty happy with it. Sorry about my coughing. I'll go get something to drink, but I'm going to be planning my next video, which really now rounds up these things like my SEO kata and my SEO ML, ML SEO, Pipulate, OAuth. I have it in all these different places right now, but I'll bring it under one umbrella, probably the Pipulate umbrella, but I will be talking about doing it at the What's a Metaphor IO website that I just launched earlier today. It has nothing there, but this seems like the logical place for me to sort of do the latest unveiling, the coming out with the new Pipulate features. So thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to subscribe.